In this video, we're going to have a look at building and running programs. I'm Andrew. Programming is the foundational skill in any computing degree, and we are about to start on our journey to learn how to build programs. We've started already looking at how to use the terminal and how to set up our computer, so we're nearly ready to get going. But before we can get going, we really want to test these tools out. Let's make sure that they work and we can actually build and run programs without necessarily worrying about how the code works itself. With these tools set up, we'll then be ready to go on, knowing that we've got everything ready to go, and we can then test out our ideas as we're looking at the code and understanding how it works. In this chapter, we're going to have all of the details for how to do this. So we're going to look at using our setup to build and run programs. We'll start by copying code from the field guide. We can then test it by building it and running, and it should work if we copy the code from the guide. And then we'll look at running it through the debugger, because the debugger is a great way of exploring what your code looks like. Step one, very simple. We'll be finding some code and copying it. So the field guide has a number of different sections where we can find code. So in our building programs chapter, if you go to the terminal hello world, you'll find the code there. So we can copy that code, those little two square boxes. If you click that over here, then it will copy the code from that section. So it's a nice handy way of being able to grab some code out of the guide if you need it. Once you've got that, we can use that in our project. To build the project, we'll need to use the command line, and we can use the instructions that we outline for building that. So you need to create a folder. Inside the folder, you can then create the project using .NET New Console. And once you've got that, opening it up in Visual Studio Code, you can paste in the code from the field guide, and then you're ready to build and run it. Building and running can be done in the terminal using the .NET Build and the .NET Run commands. And then you'll be able to see the output as we're showing here with the terminal open inside Visual Studio Code, which is a super cool feature. Lastly, the thing you want to look at is the debugger. You want to make sure the first steps are really great. They've got the main tools sorted out. You want to be able to open up Visual Studio Code, see your code, copy it or paste it into there. You want to be able to build and run that code. But the debugger is sort of the next level of awesome. So it lets you step through the code line by line and see what's happening as it's running. So this is going to be really useful as you start to learn things, because you'll be able to run your code through the debugger and see, how does this work? And step through it line by line. To do that, in Visual Studio Code, you use this debugger icon over on the left here, and then you can run the program and it will start to run through. Clicking over in the gutter here lets you add a breakpoint, so it will stop when it gets to that line, and then you can step over the code. I'll have a chat with Charlotte later and we can have a look at how this works in that chat. So are you ready to start building and running programs? In computing, programming is really the foundation. In order to get started exploring programming, you really need to make sure you've got the tools set up. Going through these steps will help make sure that you've got that ready to go. So you can copy the code in for the moment. You can test it by building it and running it in the terminal and in Visual Studio Code, and then running it through the debugger will let you see, hey, cool, I can step through and see how this works. Once you've got this going, you know that you've got everything ready to start exploring these programming languages as we move on into the next chapters of the book. Enjoy the journey.